We received the ADP job reports this morning, and the report does not look very good. It kind of increases the chances of December 9th rate cut. We all know that previously market was concerned that maybe there will not be a December rate cut because we had hawkish Chair Powell. But now with the ADP job report, and then after one of the board member of Federal Reserve board members spoke a week and a half ago saying that we would not mind cutting a rate in December, that kind of made market go bullish. But this morning, when the job report came out, now if I just checked a little while ago, the probability of rate cut on December 9th has gone up to 96%, which makes the market go very bullish. Qs were up, Tesla was up, all the tech stocks were going higher this morning because everybody is excited that we are going to have more rate cuts. There's 32% rate cut in January. I think the rate cut is going to be announced on January 22nd or 21st, I believe. That's when the next FOMC meeting is going to be after December. So there's a 35% of rate cut in January, at least for now. But I think if Fed is smart, they might just do one more rate cut in January as well. I think that will be better for them. If you watch this channel regularly, you know that I'm always of the opinion that we are 2 to 3 rate cuts behind, and Federal Reserve has to kind of move fast to kind of bring us back and have a soft landing if they want to avoid recession. And I think that's what they're going to do. We recently heard the news that Donald Trump is going to replace Jerome Powell with Kevin Hassett, and he was going to announce Kevin Hassett to be the next Fed chair by the end of this week, but then he decided not to announce this until 2026. And I think the reason why he did that is because everybody had threw a backlash on him, because nobody wants Hassett, because Hassett is pretty much just a shill for Donald Trump. He will do whatever Donald Trump would ask him to do, which if I was Donald Trump, I would pick Kevin Hassett, but he's not the right candidate for the Federal Reserve chair, and also is not very good for economy. I wouldn't mind having Waller, because as far as Waller is concerned, I think he understands economy better. He is a better analyst, and he can make decisions based off of what's needed to make rather than just listening to Donald Trump. I'm not saying that he will not listen to Donald Trump. He will listen to him to an extent, but then once he realizes that maybe certain things may not work out in the favor of economy, then he will not listen to Donald Trump at that point. And I think everybody wants Waller rather than Kevin Hassett, as long as it's not Kevin Warsh. I think everybody else I'm okay with. Waller, I would be very happy if Waller became the next Fed chair. That's also once Donald Trump changed the date that he's going to announce the next Fed chair in 2026, that kind of brought the market down. We saw this couple days, we saw this on Monday, which was yesterday. I don't know, I'm just losing track of the day. My morale is really down today, so excuse me. So it was down yesterday, but then this morning after the ADP report came out, everybody was bullish because they do realize that we're going to have a rate cut in December 9th. So from now and December 9th, I think market is going to do well because there is no bearish catalyst on the way. Of course, there's never a guarantee unless there's something out of nowhere this pops up. But other than that, I don't see any bearish catalyst coming up before December 9th, or even after December 9th. Could market keep going higher after December 9th? Probably, but we're entering into a holiday phase, which is the end of the year, which mostly we're always expecting to have a Santa Claus rally, but for past couple of years we have not had Santa Claus rally, so I don't know where it's gonna go this time. Bitcoin took a reversal event above $90,000 level. As you know, I am not invested into Bitcoin, though I have money sitting on the sideline, but I feel like Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy is probably running a Ponzi scheme because he has way too much control over Bitcoin, and I'm afraid that if he dumps Bitcoin, that's going to collapse the entire crypto market, and that would be the best time for me to buy Bitcoin. Whether he's going to do it this year, next year, I don't know. I think he is going to do it at some point. When one entity or one individual has too much control of an asset, it always makes me nervous to invest into that asset. Do I believe in Bitcoin? Absolutely. I believe Bitcoin as a store of value in the long term, but I think in the short term, I could have a better opportunity to buy it at a cheaper price, and not to mention it's a very expensive digital asset. So I don't want to put just $100,000 in one coin if I can buy two with the same amount of money and hold them in the long term. So I'm going to wait for Bitcoin to collapse. And I think at some point, Michael Saylor is going to either file bankruptcy or he's going to dump Bitcoin and just leave all the retailers holding the bag. And I think that will be a good point for me to enter into Bitcoin and hold it. Now let's talk about Federal Reserve and them changing rate. We know the quantitative tightening ended on December 1st, and we entered into quantitative easing cycle since then. I'm of the opinion that by the end of this year, I think S&P 500 is going to hit $7,000. $7,000. It could even go higher, maybe 7.3 or 7.2, but 7,000 is my minimum goal for S&P 500 towards the end of the year. This morning we saw a news that Microsoft is going to cut down on their quota for AI product sales, and they're going to lower target for AI software sales growth as well, which kind of tanked Microsoft stock this morning. I was reading through the news and I realized it wasn't that big deal, because if anything, I feel like 2026 is going to be the best year for AI. We're still at a very initial stage of AI and quantum technology. Actually, I was talking to one of my nephews. Actually, he's my husband's nephew. I was talking to him. He just finished his PhD in quantum physics, and he's working for some big company in Zurich or Geneva, I think, in Europe. And we were talking to him about where do you think quantum is at this stage? And he said, well, quantum is where I think Google and Microsoft was about 50 years ago in 1950s, which means it's at a very early stage. So we have a long way to go. So if you want to be rich, you can invest into AI and quantum stocks now, and you can accumulate generational wealth. In his opinion, at least that's what he thinks. And what do I know? He's the pro, he's the expert, he has his PhD, and he's working for a very well-known firm in Europe, Zurich to be particular. Anyways, that was just a side note. So anyway, with the Microsoft kind of, when this morning they make this announcement, when the news came up, that kind of tanked the market. And I was a little nervous. I was like, oh my God, I hope this market doesn't go down again. But I think with the ADP report, it just kind of raised the hopes for investors, and they jumped right back in because they knew the December rate cut is almost 100% guaranteed, and that is going to have an impact on the market. Now, let's talk about the housing market. We all know that once the rates drop, it kind of helps the housing market boom, because I think in 2026, when the rate cuts drop, the housing market is going to go higher. People are going to borrow money to renovate their homes. So construction business is going to do well. The housing market is going to do well. The prices of how the housing is going to go up, because there will be a lot more sale and purchase going on, because money is going to be available to people at a much lower rate. So there'll be more buyers in the market. As a result, there'll be more sellers in the market, because right now, if I want to sell the house, I don't want to, even though I want to, but I'm not going to, because my interest rate is 2.5%. I can sell this house and buy a much smaller home, but my payment will be the same because the interest rates are so high. But in 2026, once the rate drops, I would be happy to sell my house and downsize, because then my interest rate will be lower, so my payments will be lower. And lots of people, they're stuck in their homes for that reason, because they just don't see a point for them to be selling the house, downsizing or upsizing, and then paying a much higher payment, unless they absolutely need to sell to relocate or for other reasons, whatever their personal reasons may be. There aren't that many sellers, and also there aren't that many buyers either, because people don't want to buy a house in an economy where the interest rates are pathetically high. I also think that 2026 is going to be a new year for IPO boom. Since we are entering into the AI era, lots of these AI companies are going to want to kind of IPO their businesses, and I think it's going to have the same 2021, right after COVID, when there were so many IPOs and they were doing so well and everybody made money. So I think 2026 is going to be a good year as well for the IPO boom of all these new AI companies in the stock market as well. So if you have some cash put this on the sideline, not a personalized financial advice. Maybe you can take advantage of the situation and make some money off of these new IPOs. Also, I think AI is going to help so many existing businesses do very well, cut down on their cost. There are lots of people who are going to probably lose their jobs as a result as well. But I think before we get to that point, we have some time in between, a few years. It's a good time to improve your skill and maybe familiarize yourself with the modern technology with AI. Take some short courses and stuff, and maybe find a new job and look for a new job, because I think in a year or so maybe AI will take over and lots of people will lose jobs. But these large companies will ultimately do well. Their production will increase. Ultimately, their profit margin will go up, and as a result, if they're listed on the stock exchange, the stock price is going to go higher as well, which is going to make economy much stronger. So next year, 2026, I think is going to be a real estate boom. It's also going to be an IPO boom. Particularly AI companies are going to be IPO'd more often. And I think tech stock is going to do well as well, because all these large companies, the Mega 7, the tech stocks, they are interest sensitive stocks. For example, Tesla, Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, all these companies, well, Nvidia has lots of cash, but at some point they will probably borrow money. So all these big companies and tech companies are going to do well once the rates go down, because these companies are very interest rate sensitive, since they need to borrow money quite often to perform the functions that they are performing for the innovation purposes. And when the rates are high, that obviously affects their cost, and also it affects their profit margin and their revenue as well. So lower, cheaper money does help them grow much faster, and it does increase their profit margin as well, and their revenue, and it lowers their costs. So those companies are going to do well as well. So if you're not invested, I think tech stock is going to be a very well candidate for short-term and long-term investments, or even day trade or swing trades as well. AI, of course, lots of these companies are going to fade away, in my opinion. Just like in 2021, EV companies boom came up, and every other company was making an electric vehicle, and now we don't even hear their name anymore. Only a few of the companies have survived. Similarly, all these companies who are putting AI next to their name, they're not going to survive. So in the short term, for next 1 month or 2 months, maybe it's a good time to take some, to use this hype and make some money off of them. But I would not invest into all these small AI companies for a long-term investment, because my personal opinion is that most of those companies are going to die down. So if you want to invest in AI, I would say Tesla, Nvidia is the leader. No one's going to beat them. If you look at Nvidia, what they're accomplishing and what's in their pipeline, and their valuation is very, very extremely low. It's only selling at 28 PEG ratio, which is extremely low, which means I could justify Nvidia being a $300 worth stock right now at this moment. So I think it's a good time to invest into Nvidia. Palantir is valued extremely high. I'm a little concerned. Could it keep going higher? Absolutely, because I wouldn't be surprised if this momentum keeps going, but I will not be buying this right now. I'm not invested into Palantir, though I like the company very much. I like their profile. I do like what they're doing, but I will not be buying this because I think the valuation is too high. I will wait for it to drop below $100 in order for me to invest into this. And I have a feeling that sooner or later it's going to happen. And when that does happen, I will buy. Unless they have some huge news which just makes the sky blow up. Even then, I think there's a pullback going to take place. But I think for now, the initial momentum that it had, I think it has, reached its peak, and now it's time for it to pull back, or maybe possibly a correction. So I will not invest into it right now, but that's just me. You do your own due diligence and decide what you want to do. Microsoft is a good company, as I say, but again, it's a very expensive stock. But you can, if you have cash, you can definitely hold this stock in the long term, and you can also use this for swing trade or day trade as well, and you'll make money on this. Now I want to talk about, what else do I want to talk about? Oh yeah, Donald Trump had announced that he is going to do the stimulus check of $2,000. I think it was a couple of days ago when I read this news. I have a feeling that he's doing this just because he's a good salesman. Of course, he's a businessman. We all know this. He knows his sales pitch. He's a good marketing guy. I think what he's doing is he is announcing this. It's just a bullshit, first of all. I don't think he's going to issue a $2,000 stimulus check because he has a habit of doing this. Oh, I'm going to issue a $2,000 stimulus check. I think he wants the court to decide uh, in his favor that we need to continue uh, imposing tariffs on these countries. But if court, which most likely court is going to decide against him, then he can just blame it all on the court and say, well, you know, they didn't let me help the Americans, taxpayers, by issuing them the stimulus check because court ruling was otherwise. He has tendencies of doing it to blame the opposite party. He pre-sells his failure, sort of. And he pre-markets his failure, which he can foresee coming. And he has the tendencies of doing it. Like, for example, recently we saw whatever has been happening, like, well, you know, it's Democrats have done this. When there was a government shutdown, he blamed it all on Democrats. When there was a problem with the economy, he blamed it on Joe Biden, which I'm not saying that Joe Biden was not responsible, but he wasn't the only one who was responsible because um, he inherited Joe Biden's economy, but Joe Biden had also inherited Donald Trump's economy. And Donald Trump got really lucky that he left the office right when the economy was about to collapse. And Joe Biden inherited that collapse. And then, of course, that collapse continued. And then Donald Trump ended up inheriting it. But he came back at a time when the economy was rebounding again. So this man is extremely lucky, I have to say. But he had, you know, he has a very good strategy as a marketing individual or as a businessman that he can pre-sell or pre-market his failure that's coming up. And I think that's what he's doing with the stimulus check. I don't think he's going to issue a stimulus check. He knows that you know, there's going to be a ruling against his tariff, and he can blame it all on the Justice Department and say, well, you know, they didn't let me help Americans. But if we do get stimulus checks, I'm sure it's going to make everybody very happy, and economy in the short term is going to boom because people will have more spending money. Ultimately, the retails will do well. The consumers will, the uh, hospitality companies are going to do well. The airlines will do well because people will travel more, people will shop more, people will go on vacation more because they can put that money to use and enjoy their life. We also see the retails are doing well, but that doesn't mean the people are not nervous. People keep spending money until they lose their job. Once they lose their job, that's when they kind of pull back from spending. So it doesn't mean we're not at the risk of, you know, hurting everyday consumer. But I don't think we're going to hit recession because we have been through recession already. I know there are lots of people on YouTube. I was listening to some guy and he's been fear mongering for a long time that, oh, we're going to go in recession, yada, yada, yada. But I was reading a Redfin report this morning, but they also, I think, validate my theory that we're not going to hit recession. We're going to have soft landing, and with quantitative easing and with Fed cutting rate, and ultimately in 2026 printing new money, I think it's going to boost the housing market, which means we're going to be, if anything, is going to be more inflation than recession in coming years. So yeah, we're going to have soft landing, and Redfin also agrees. And I know there are lots of people in the, but Trump never thinks that we're going to hit recession. There were times in between when I was a little nervous because things were not looking great, but I was still very hopeful because I didn't think we're going to go into recession because we have already lived through recession, and thank God we didn't feel it as much as we would have otherwise. But anyways, so that's that. I hope this video helps. I just wanted to do a brief update and tell you what's happening. So I'm very bullish until December 9th. That's when the rate cut is going to take place. So there's no negative catalyst that I can foresee which will make me bearish, but I'm always bullish. You know it. Could market keep going higher after December 9th? Probably, but sometimes like buy the rumor, sell the news type of event. Once the rate cut happens, sometimes there's a pullback in the market, but I think overall market and investors, they have a bullish sentiment going on right now. Also, oh my God, I lost my train of thought. I think towards the end of the year, there's always a hope for a Santa Claus rally. But as I said, for the past 2 years, we have not had that. but this year it might look different. My target for Tesla is still $500 towards the end of the year. I am so waiting desperately for Tesla to hit 500 so I can go ahead and sell some of my Tesla shares, because I think at this point I'm ready to let go of some of my shares and take some profit, because I need some money, some liquid cash as well, to dollar cost average some of my other positions, which I've been holding for a long time, and I bought those stocks very expensive. Just like Palantir is now, I kind of FOMOed into those stocks, but then those stocks collapse. Zoom is one of them. XYZ is another one. Baba is one of them, because I bought those stocks at very high prices. And now I wanted to dollar cost average those because they're much lower now. So I can just get rid of those bags and invest that money into these tech stocks and AI stocks. Um, but my target for Tesla is 500 towards the end of the year. Nvidia, I'm still hoping it has to go over 200. It hit $215, but we still have a whole month to go. I think 230 is not undoable. So that's my thoughts. I hope this video helps. Please give my video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please be safe out there. Be wise where you spend your money. Don't invest your money if you're not willing to lose it. And please stay healthy. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. If I don't see you before that, I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. Until next one, peace out.